Today, we're going to tackle a question that on the surface seems incredibly simple. What are your odds of dying at a certain age? You might think, oh, that's just some basic math. But the truth is, it's a statistical minefield, and we are going to walk right through it.
So, here's the plan. We're going to start with that deceptively simple question and see why it's so tricky. Then, we'll dive right into the danger of using averages. After that, we'll look at why getting your definitions right is absolutely critical. We'll also see the clever ways statisticians work with data that's, well, less than perfect. And finally, we'll connect it all back to why this math really, truly matters in your life.
All right, let's jump right in with what feels like a simple question. I mean, figuring out mortality risk should be basic arithmetic, right? But as you're about to see, there's a whole world of hidden complexity just beneath the surface that can trip up just about anyone.
So, here's the core question. Let's say an insurance company, or even a health organization, wants to know the actual risk of a 50-year-old dying. How in the world do they calculate that?
Now, your first thought, and it's a totally logical one, is probably this. You just count the number of 50-year-olds who died last year, and then you divide that by the total number of 50-year-olds out there. Simple. Deaths divided by people. What could be easier?
Well, the problem is that simple little formula is built on one giant, fundamentally flawed assumption, that every single person in that group is exactly the same. And that, my friends, is where all the trouble begins. And this brings us right to our first huge hurdle, the danger of averages. Just lumping everyone together is a really bad idea because no group of people is ever truly the same, or, to use the stat nerd term, homogeneous. So yeah, a group is homogeneous if everyone in it basically has the same risk of dying. But in the real world, that's impossible. Think about it. Even among a group of 50-year-olds, you've got smokers, non-smokers, people with desk jobs, people with dangerous jobs, and a million other health differences. Let's make this super concrete. Imagine the real risk for smokers is literally double that of non-smokers. If an insurance company just takes the average of those two, look what happens. They end up overcharging the healthier non-smokers, and they give a massive discount to the higher-risk smokers. That's not just unfair, it's a business model that's destined to fail.
And this kicks off a really dangerous spiral. The low-risk folks, the non-smokers, they're not dumb. They're going to shop around and find a better deal somewhere else. Meanwhile, all the high-risk smokers are going to flock to this company that's offering them a bargain. Before you know it, the insurer is left with a pool of customers that is way riskier and way more expensive than they ever budgeted for.
And yes, there's a name for this whole mess. It's called anti-selection, or sometimes adverse selection. It's this natural tendency for the people who know they're a high risk to be the ones most eager to buy insurance. And if you're not careful, it can absolutely wreck a company's finances. So how do you fix this? It's actually pretty simple in concept. You stop averaging and you start subdividing. You take that big, messy population and you break it down into smaller, much more similar groups. You split them up by things that actually affect their mortality risk, like whether they smoke, their job, their known health conditions, and so on. It's the only way to get a truly accurate picture.
Okay, so we figured out not to lump everyone together. Problem solved, right? Well, not quite. There's another hidden trap here, making sure your data is even talking about the same thing. This is all about the crucial importance of definitions.
This is all governed by something called the principle of correspondence. It's a really simple but absolutely vital rule. It's the apples to apples rule. It just means that the group of people you're measuring, the denominator in our fraction, has to be defined in exactly the same way as the group whose deaths you're counting, the numerator.
Now, that might sound super obvious, but let me ask you, what does being age 50 really mean? Does it mean the year after your 50th birthday or something else? The answer actually matters a lot.
I mean, check this out. Age 50 can be defined in at least 3 different ways. Are you counting from someone's last birthday, their nearest birthday, their next birthday? Each of these definitions creates a totally different one-year window or rate interval. And if your death data uses one definition, but your population data uses another, your final numbers won't correspond and your calculation will be garbage.
Okay, on to our third big challenge. Even if you've got your group sorted and your definitions are perfect, there's another problem. You almost never have perfect data. In the real world, you have to get creative and estimate with what you've got. You see, in a perfect world, an insurer would know the exact second every single person joined their plan, and the exact second they left. But that's a fantasy. What they really have are snapshots,
a census, saying, on January 1st, we had this many people. And this creates a really interesting new puzzle. Because the true measure of risk isn't just the number of people, it's the total amount of time they were exposed to that risk. So how can you possibly measure that total time if all you have are these once-a-year snapshots?
And the solution is actually pretty genius. Statisticians make a simple but really powerful assumption. They assume that the number of people in the group changed at a steady, constant rate between those two census dates. And if you make that assumption, you can use a simple shape from geometry class, a trapezoid, to get a really good estimate of the total time everyone was exposed to risk. It's an incredibly clever shortcut that makes real-world, messy data useful.
So, we've waded through all this complex math. Averages, definitions, trapezoids. Let's bring it all home. Why does any of this actually matter to you? The answer, it turns out, affects all of us, every single day.
All this careful, detailed work has huge real-world consequences. It's why your insurance premiums can be priced fairly, reflecting your actual risk, not some random average. It's what keeps those companies financially healthy so they can actually pay claims. It's the bedrock of planning for pensions. And it's how we get the accurate public health data we all depend on, like life expectancy.
So I guess the main takeaway here is this. Calculating something as fundamental as risk is so much more than a simple division problem. It's this incredibly sophisticated process, honed over centuries, all designed to make sure the final numbers are as fair and as accurate as they can possibly be.
And it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? If there's this much complexity hiding behind just one statistic, what other simple numbers that we see every day, in the news, in financial reports, what other numbers might be hiding a whole world of hidden assumptions and careful calculations just below the surface?